I have DistroWatch open because we're going to talk about Linux distributions. Or we're going to talk about the whole fucking stupidity, in my opinion, of the whole GNU/Linux and blah blah blah. And before I go totally crazy, do me a favor, give me a thumbs up. Even if you disagree with me, just be the better guy and give me a thumbs up just for putting effort into making this video, so you can get entertained for a little while. Okay? Make a comment why I'm super mad, super wrong, so we can all laugh at you. Subscribe so you can get even more mad at all the other content I'm going to make. Go on to my Discord and suggest videos that you want me to make. There's an 8 to 9 out of 10% chance that I'm actually going to do it. It may take a month or a few weeks, but I will do it because I value you guys' input. If you want me to make a video about something, unless it's totally out there, I'm going to do it. Maybe just take a little bit of time. Why this stupid GNU/Linux? We have to understand, but it's not just GNU/Linux. It's how people are, the grammar police. People have become the Linux police. Like, you cannot say Linux, it's GNU Linux. You know that, right? And also, like, everything is wrong in this video because you're saying Linux when you're talking about distributions, because Linux is really the kernel and blah 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 blah. People that do those things and say those things really fucking wind me up because it's so low IQ take on this shit. Let me start with the GNU thingy. Okay? The only reason why you want to call it GNU/Linux and you have an issue with it not being called GNU/Linux is because Mr. Stallman got a little bit butthurt that people talking more about the Linux kernel than the GNU product. That's the only reason. He can say that's not the reason. He has said that it's not because of ego. It is. Because the GNU part of a Linux distribution is not even the biggest fucking part. Like, if you combine all the software ingredients that takes up a distribution, GNU is not that big of it. Most systems nowadays use less and less GNU products, especially with systemd being in the mix now. It's only because he wants to be recognized more and he wants his political message to be spread more. That's the only reason. Because by his logic, if it's because we have to recognize the projects in a distribution, we should be calling it GNU/Linux/GNOME/KDE/SFCs, depending on what the desktop environments they're providing, what is the main media player, what is the init system. You get the idea here. And that rolls into why people like me and other people are using the term Linux to talk about everything that's in here, basically. Anything from the init system to the different distributions to, philosophies within the Linux ecosystem and so on and so on. It's because unless you are talking about a specific distribution, like let's say Ubuntu here, if you are talking about many distributions, if you're talking about many things that has to do with the Linux ecosystem, I use Linux here again, we have as a group of people for 30 plus years agreed that the term Linux is being used as a synonymous equation to anything that has to do with the Linux kernel. Anything from the init system to the distribution to the package managers. We call it Linux package managers. We don't call it flat package packages. We do, but we calling it flat packs a Linux package format because it ensures that you and I and most people know what we are talking about. The only time someone will go in and say, what the fuck, this RLX OS or Q4 OS, is when we are talking about this specific distribution. So if I'm making a video or someone else is making a video or you're having a conversation that is only regarding Q4 OS or Ghost BSD, which is a BSD distribution, but let's take Ubuntu, we will then use the word Ubuntu instead of Linux. So that's why you see a lot of people that are making Arch Linux videos don't just say Linux, they say Arch Linux. When you see someone making an Ubuntu video, they don't say Linux, they say Ubuntu, because this is a specific subject about a specific type of distribution within the Linux ecosystem. When people are making videos and they are saying Linux as a generalization, that means everything that has to do with Linux. Or else a really, really simple conversation will be 10 hours fucking longer, because we have to specify each component of what we mean within the Linux ecosystem, which makes no fucking sense. If I'm saying there is too many Linux package formats, you don't want me to say there's too many Ubuntu, Rhino, Porthix, Arch, Void, Mebox, Sys Linux, Linux, Reborn OS, React OS, Big Linux, Nopex, Bodhi, Red Hat, KAOS, WatchOS, Endless, OpenManDriva, package formats. You don't want me to sit and say all the fucking Linux distributions I can come up with in my head to say that Linux has a fragmented package system. That will make no fucking sense. But what you would be expecting is that if I think, let's say, snap packages is done badly by Ubuntu, you don't want me to sit here and say, snap packages is bad. Arch Linux is doing snap packages bad because Arch Linux don't do snap packages. It's Ubuntu or Canonical doing snap packages. So there you want to have the qualifier of, hey, snap packages is a canonical technology. You should be talking about canonical, even though it's a Linux technology. But it's Canonical that's in charge of that. The people that expect us, everyone else, to call it GNU or call it, you can't use the term Linux because it's only the kernel. When we are talking about a generalized subject, has just lost the fucking plot, to be honest. It makes no sense. Do you do that with cars? You do know the word cars is not really a good qualifier for an individual car. It just means, it can mean so many things. So are you talking Ford, GMs? Are you talking Honda, Kia, EVs? What are you talking about? Or are you just saying all cars have 4 wheels as a minimum? Or well, some have 3, but most cars has 4 wheels. Do you now sit and have to say, well, technically, blah, 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 brand has 4 wheels? No, we use the term car as a qualifier, as a synonymous thing to encompass and include cars. And yes, it's not 100% correct, 99%, sometimes, but it makes conversations easier to have. You don't, when you say Windows has bad updating methods, are you talking Windows Server? Are you talking Windows Data Center? Are you talking Windows IoT? Are you talking Windows Workstation? Are you talking Windows Home? Are you talking Windows Professional? Or do you just mean all Windows? If there is a kernel panic in Windows, you don't say, NT has a problem. You say Windows had a problem. But you don't bitch and moan about that because it don't make you look smart. And also it's a Windows technology, so we don't learn about Windows because only stupid people learn about Windows. You get what I'm coming at here? It just drives my small testicles into a fucking knot when people come and do those things. It's the stupidest thing that you can do. It shows that you have no concept about having a conversation. And it also kind of shows that you have no fucking good arguments, because if your argument to something I say or someone else say is that, you're using the word Linux wrong, that is the weakest argument you can have ever. It's like saying, I don't want to listen to you because you're fat. When I use the term Linux, when someone else is using the term Linux, people know what the fuck they know what they are talking about. They know that when someone say Linux, they mean all of this here, plus all the extra bits and bobs. Just like a lot of you guys don't know that Windows is not the name of the fucking Windows kernel. Some know it, some don't. Some get the same with Mac OS. Mac OS kernel has a name, but if you guys are dealing with Mac OS on a kernel level, you're still saying Mac OS. And here's the thing: the kernel on here and the kernel on my MacBook are not even the same. They have relations, but they are not the same. Like the kernel on Android versus the Linux kernel are not the same. They are based on each other, but they are not the same. So again, if you want me to correct my saying, or other people, if you want us to correct our saying about calling GNU/Linux or only refer to Linux when we're talking about the kernel, you can not put Android under Linux then, because you're doing the same you're doing generalization, but saying Android instead of Linux, recognizing that Android is not Linux, and that's not a good thing, because now we're losing another argument in our bag about how popular Linux theoretically is. You guys need to fucking step it up, man. I'm tired of seeing people correcting other people in comment sections about the term GNU Linux or the term Linux, where it should be used and not be used. First of all, it don't matter. If you want to call it GNU Linux, you call it GNU Linux. Don't force me to call it that. I was about to say Mr. Stallman. Even Linus Torvalds don't want to call it GNU Linux. He don't mind people doing it, but he don't do it. He called it Linux. It's only the Free Software Foundation that wants to be called GNU Linux and its disciples. So think about that, by the way. And if you want me and everyone else that you're talking to use the correct termination of Linux, you have to do it yourself. But you don't. The same people that tell me to use GNU Linux or telling other people to use GNU Linux or only using Linux when they're talking about the kernel, they will be talking about desktop managers, desktop environments, but not the specific ones, just in general. So you're right in the same fucking comment You're contradicting yourself. You're doing exactly the same thing you're telling us not to do. The Linux community, or the Linux... I hate these fucking ads here. I have to put an ad plug on this one here. The Linux white knights, let me put it that way. They need to come up with better arguments. If the only argument or rebuttal you have to a conversation is the termination or the wrong use of the word Linux, if that's your biggest argument, you have no fucking argument. I'm sorry to say it. I'm just being honest here. It's the weakest argument you can ever have. You know when I say Linux, what I mean. You know when someone else is saying Linux, what they mean, or else you won't correct them. The word Linux for over 30 years has been used as an inclusive to mean anything in the Linux ecosystem, unless we're going to talk specifics. Just like when you say Windows, you include everything that has to do with the Windows ecosystem. If you say that Adobe has a package problem under Windows, you don't say Adobe has an exe executable compression format issue under Windows 11, 10, XP, 7, 8, or how long down they support it. You just say Adobe has a package problem under Windows, if that's the case. You see how you want us to complicate simple things because it makes you look smarter, or you want to be better than everyone else. It's driving me nuts, dudes. It really is. It's driving me nuts. It's like someone telling you that you are not perfect while they are standing in shit. They are executing themselves on electrical wires on their testicles, and they're drinking fucking radiator fluid. And they are telling you that you are not doing something the right way. And they're screwing a light bulb in while you're standing in the pool of water eating an ice cream. But they're telling you that you put the wheels on your car on wrong. If you want other people to follow a certain expectation, you have to at least, as a bare minimum, fulfill that expectation yourself. You cannot be a grammar police or a word police if you yourself are not using it correctly. You cannot be an OS police if you have no idea what you're talking about when it comes to comparing OSs. You cannot tell a developer or an IT professional that they're doing a bad job if you have no idea how to do that job and you have never done that job. I have never seen anything more stupid like this in the close to 30 years I've been dealing with Linux. And again, it all comes down to a fucking political activist getting his butt hurt over he's not getting recognized enough, called Richard Stallman, and then all his disciples following through. If you don't understand the concept of generalizations in a conversation and when to use a generalization versus using a specific wording, I don't know what went wrong, either education, upbringing, I have no idea, but you cannot then start to play smarter than everyone else. And here's a fun thing. I do watch other people's content a lot, and I see the same people coming into channels like mine and correcting people, correcting Windows users, correcting Mac users in the way that they are talking about Linux. For them to go on to their favorite Linux content creator and doing the exact same fucking shit, but not correcting themselves or anyone else. They're not correcting their favorite YouTuber for using the word Linux and not GNU Linux. They're only doing it to people they don't agree with. That's you know, something needs to click up here. You get what I'm coming at. Anyway, I hope this was a little bit of a it was a weird video, but it's a problem that I have seen going on for years now in conversations about Linux. Is that you have those anal smart asses, for lack of a better word, trying to correct everyone else while they're doing the exact same thing, either in the same fucking conversation or when they're talking to other people but those people they just agree with. And I think the reason why they want people like you and me to use the word GNU Linux or try to, explain to us that Linux is only a kernel is because they don't really have any good arguments to the conversation that we are bringing up. So if they don't have any good arguments, then they can either become personal, they can attack us as a person, or they can, point out small little flaws in the way we speak, which is again a little bit of a personal attack, to be honest. So that means they have no good arguments for the conversation. So what they really are doing is that, well, because you're not using the correct term, I should therefore disregard everything you say, because in my opinion you're not saying GNU Linux and you're saying Linux when you're not talking about the kernel. So therefore everything you say is meaningless. You don't know what you're talking about. I should not be listening to you. While they do the same shit in the same comment on other channels, using generalization or generalized wording to generalize a subject. It's so I should make a video about, let me know if you want to see that. I can make a video about how to spot who knows what they're talking talking about and who don't. And when people have lost the conversation and when they have won the conversation, because it's something that a lot of people apparently don't understand. Because a lot of people lose the conversation within the first comment, but they think they won. That's the sad part. They think they won, but they didn't. See you all later. Bye bye.